just to let you know, we were okayed to do raised beds. It's on us, but it's okay. They like the pictures we have. They okayed that design and look. So we'll have one like in the shape of an E in the courtyard in the sunny corner. We need help moving all the plantage and then relocating it as best we can. And then also in the stairwells, window box type of a situation on the third floor, and by another raised bed, pretty, by the dog run area. And these really have to be well kept. I really want to emphasize that because I don't want them turning around saying nope. So we really have to commit to taking care of these beds, get some nice pretty things growing in these beds, and everyone agrees it'll enhance the community. So it's good we're all in accordance in one accord with that. Lastly, I'll mention the wells. I had a person ask me about the well at the bunks, and it is an 8-inch well that's been capped off because 30 years ago there was a sewage issue into that well. Whether that's gone away and out and filtered itself and do all the things water does, we don't know. It'd have to be tested. But this person was interested in finding out more, and they may decide to actually pay to have a real well somewhere on the premises. So that would be nice. But in the meantime, we have the one down on the end by the conference center that right now I'm 6 feet into clay. I haven't got past that, and I haven't had the time to actually get out there. I'm hoping a little bit tomorrow, but we're going to use the Bobcat and pop it down, and we'll have water at the end here next week, and then another one will go across the way. So we'll have water, we'll have lights, we'll have some plant action going on. It'll be pretty. I think it's all positive. And we have to realize that whatever we put in the raised beds will not feed everyone, but it will give us some little choices. The fruit trees, I was hopeful to get started, has not really been go ahead yet. But possibly by next year we'll have some fruit trees out around the berm. We'll see. The problem with the fruit trees is if people don't maintain them, you'll have a mess. You know, there's some maintenance to fruit trees. And I don't know if we have that many committed farmers or horticulturists right now, but to tend that garden. Let's start with something. So it's a big plus in my mind. It's a step forward. So once we get people together, let's start collecting or get a treasurer, whatever you need to do to say, okay, here's some funds for materials. I mean, I'll chip a buck in.
How much money do you need?
I don't know, thousands or hundreds.
1,400?
I think I haven't put together a material list for the raised beds, but I mean, I'm under 1,000, no doubt, even for a nice pretty. That's in my mind, but we'll put that together. So we need to get that part together, a team putting that together, figure out who's planting what, where, how, and when. Dirt, there's dirt costs, there's all that, you know. The go-ahead just means more work for everyone, okay? But here we come, okay? Thank you.
Yeah.
The question?
Will they allow an 8 to 10 foot fence around those raised beds?
Let's start with the raised beds. Okay? We'll go from there. As soon as we have a raised bed.
Okay, so on that note, we're going to pass out a survey, and on the survey, it's very short. It just says, number one, if food was no longer available in the grocery store, do you have enough food for 3 months, 6 months, and 1 year? And it says circle 1. So we know that those vegetables will be a supplement. Number 2, if yes, what are your food sources? And there's some suggestions here. Canned food, hydroponic, indoor garden, freeze-dry, dehydrated foods, sprouting, microgreens, purchased from Patriots or similar sources. So we're going to be passing one of these out to each person. And on this form, I'll go through the rest of the form, but on this form, we want to start having action groups. So if you are interested in planting or maintaining, if you're interested in the window boxes, and then we are going to have working meetings where the very next meeting, which is next Wednesday, we're going to start getting groups together. Number 3, what area of food preparation do you have experience in and would like to share? A lot of people have canning experience. I have just started dehydrating. Next week, I'm going to bring in my food saver, and we'll pass around if you have anything that you want to food save. If you want to buy some bags, they're $10 a whole roll, and I can order them in advance. So on this list, if you're interested in food saving any of your rice or beans or anything, I have a very high-powered food saver that I'll bring to the next meeting. Okay, number 4. What area of food preparation and storage would you like to learn more about? Number 5, what questions do you have for food preparedness if food were no longer available for purchase? One of the questions I have is for cooking. I still haven't figured out what I'm going to be doing, but some people, like Lynn, had mentioned that there's solar stoves. So we need to brainstorm as a community and see what God's going to help us do. And then number 6, if your apartment's too small for storage, do you have a friend or family that you could team up with? You know, let's just partner together and make it work. And then it says, feel free to add notes, questions, thoughts on back. So on back to just whatever groups you're interested in, and we will compile a list. And on the top, it says name and email. Please write legibly so we can contact everybody. And we'll send this out to the rest of the body. You know, we're a small group of the faithful, but there are a lot of people in our body that have skills and desires to see this go forward that weren't here. Larry, do you have anything?
I'd just like to know where you're at. You got things done. I mean, can you feed yourself if the balloon...
Okay, well, we're getting this flyer, so we'll know.
Can you feed yourself if the balloon goes up tomorrow afternoon?
Okay, we're going to pass that out now. Mary will come by with a list, and there's pens. If you need another pen at your table, just raise your hand and we'll get you one.
It's not going to happen, right?
What? Okay, and Mackie is going to share her experience. She's done a bunch of raised garden beds. So, Mackie, did you want to share? Yeah, they'd love to. Yeah, we're going to be doing something different than she did, but she's going to say how she made it work and what her limitations and how she overcame some things.
Yeah, well, I didn't do all this expensive stuff. I was a school teacher. I had a big backyard, so I put in my first raised bed. That was my first experience. And was quite successful. Then I put in my second raised bed, and I would say each bed cost me about $40. But I thought it was pretty. I don't know if leadership would think it was pretty. But I used the thick boards, and I learned to use wood screws, not nails. And the best thing is to have a post, but I did one without the post, and they did fine. The thing about a raised bed is you can grow more in a raised bed than in a field because your soil is so rich. That's the deal. And it's raised because when it rains, the good soil doesn't wash away. That's the deal about a raised bed. That's all it is. It holds all your good soil. So you can grow a great deal more in a little tiny plot. You think, well, that's so tiny, but you can grow bushels in a raised bed. Mine was 8 by 6 feet. And I did it that way because 6 feet wide, and then I would buy the PCP pipe that you don't have to have cut. It comes in 10 feet already cut. I don't want to pay for the cut. I had a school teacher salary. So that way, if you put a 10-foot PCP pipe over 6 feet wide, they give you a 4-foot roof on it. And so in the summer, I would put bird netting over it to keep the birds from tasting everything. And then you can go, in Texas, we had really good winter gardens for beets, broccoli, and squashes, things like that. So so in the winter, I would put thick plastic over it, just put rocks on the side to keep it, it would take a little frost. But you're giving away, I was always giving away. There's no way you could eat all that you can grow in those things. So that was mine. Now we had recycle, and I had a pickup truck. I did because we had a horse. And so I would, wherever they took your water bill to show that they had picked up your leaves. And then they would just fill the truck up with soil and things. But then also you'd buy manure and good fertilizer, but you don't have to keep replenishing as much because you've got the sides. The rain isn't washing the good soil away as it does on a farm. Yeah, I did spend 2 summers on a farm hoeing, and I did spend a year in the jungle without water or electricity. So yeah, in Vietnam. So anyway, it's all doable. You got anything else?
That's good.
That good? All right. So I don't know if they would like my pretty. I don't think my gardens would be pretty enough for them.
No,
But they're very useful.
But once we get the garden going, we'll have some suggestions on how we can get, beautiful screen, coverings. So just God will unfold it as we go. We also need people that are knowledgeable about seeds and planting. We'll have to do some research on that. Was very helpful, Mackie, even knowing what you planted.
I brought with me some non-GMO corn seeds.
Oh, yay. She brought with her some non-GMO corn seeds. So we'll just have to see how we can brainstorm and make those gardens as most efficient and plentiful as possible. So also, another need is we can brainstorm how to fundraise. There could be some fundraising ideas, and maybe the church would be on board with it. We could fundraise, and that would probably get exposure out. Like we're fundraising, having a bakery sale for preparedness for residents, or that would be the whole church. But we'll just have to brainstorm that. If anybody has any fundraising ideas, put that on the back of your survey. So right now, this is pretty exciting. We're just thinking out of the box. We're going to have an open mic for anybody that has any ideas. Okay. So come on up. And we have that mic working too.
I know they're worried about who's going to keep the gardens, but also I was living in upstate New York. We formed a food co-op, and we would go down to the New York City ships, this was in the 70s, and pick up on the docks and buy crates of strawberries, Jarlsberg cheese right off the Norwegian ships. And they had a night where the restaurants all went. We would, they were just kind of amused, a bunch of housewives out there in the middle of the night. All right, just take it, give me $10. We would just go home with all this. And then we would divide it up by the major cost. And it was very easy to do as a co-op. We just divided up what we paid for it and then charged each person for what they wanted. We had to use big wires to cut those Jarlsberg cheese things and whatever else we could get. It was really good food, and it wasn't hard at all. And some people put their time in instead of like money, and it's easy to work out the time. So you could do that with a garden, where people would rather put time in, either weeding or caring or watering, for what you could produce, because you really could produce more than you think out of those raised beds. But it's not that hard to do, and that's the bartering that I know about. It worked.
That's another thing I want us to try to network in bartering. Like if somebody has a lot of sugar available, they could distribute that, and if somebody has more beans. But that could come later, but we really want to start thinking about bartering. There was one guy, Clint Rogers at CSCL, he said, what do we have to barter? He said, think of one thing that you have that you can barter. Also, eventually, when I was in YWAM, they had something called a boutique, and it was free to put your stuff in, and then you could go and pick up what you wanted too. So, going down the road here, let's get some of those community things going. Really, the mission statement was that we would work together as a community, and so this is going to be fun. Whether we have an emergency or not, we're going to be building relationships with our brothers and sisters.
And I believe that these gardens will raise a lot more than you think. I've got a picture here. I'll bring them out and show you. But this is just peppers, okay? There's bell peppers, there's jalapenos, there's habaneros, and all this was one day's picking. This one I've got on this picture is one day's picking of just those 3 items, not counting all the other stuff that we picked that day. We had tomatoes and onions and several other things that was in the garden, and it was a raised garden in Oklahoma, and it grew very very well. It just was, and it was really a lot of fun to work in it. Only thing I didn't like to do is I had some people who were supposed to come help me weed it, and no one came to help me weed it. Everything else, they came and helped me plant and all that. But when it come weeding time, nobody showed up. And that's one thing we're going to have to do, because you got to keep the weeds in. And if you get them out early, they're easy. If you wait till 3 or 4 days, then you got to dig down, and then it's tough to get them out. But weeding is one of the most important, besides watering, it's one of the most important things you can do, because it will not only make your garden not produce, but like they're talking about, it's got to look good, and that will make it look ugly if we have a bunch of weeds growing in there.
If you guys want to come up and just let us know what kinds of things you've been doing since our meetings have begun. I personally God has just really birthed a lot of things. I have 2 hydroponic aero gardens going. I got the dehydrator going. I got the food vacuum sealer. It's just come together. So if we can share just different ideas, it can spur us on. And then I also got a ton of tuna fish, a ton of salmon, some olive oil. I got 100 pounds of wheat berries and 100 more on the way. Because Rick had mentioned that the wheat is going to be very sparse. So I'm not sure, I'm just growing it for wheatgrass, but if we do have a famine, I could use some of that to bake bread, but I don't know how to bake bread. I don't know what kind of things I need for bread. So I think that with all our, it's like, what do you have in your hand? So if people can just do their part, whatever their passion is, whatever they have to offer, it's all going to be amazing.
Okay. Okay, the Lord put it on my heart about a year and a half ago to start prepping. And so for the last year and a half, I've ordered about $7,000 worth of foods. And yeah, that's the Lord. But now that I'm feeling that the Lord is bringing me back here, I want to go ahead and share with you some of the things that I learned online about food prepping. I went and bought 100 pounds of rice at Sam's Club. And then whenever I started putting it into smaller containers and making it so that it would stay for up to 25 years, the best thing to do is to put it in brown paper bags. And I did the flour, the sugar, and the rice, 100 pounds each so far. And each one I put into a brown bag, and then afterwards I sealed it with one of the sealers. And I also bought some of the rice packs that you put inside to keep it from getting any moisture in it. So I've got that. The Lord showed me to go ahead and get pizza dough because we can always make fajitas. And instead of having a bread, we can always make the fajitas. And the pizza dough already is already sifted, and it has all of the stuff in it that you need. All you have to do is put some with water. I also have a water filter system that sits on the counter, and each one of the filters will filter out 20,000 gallons, and I have 6 extra filters to go in that. Let's see. There's so much that I have. I've got a lot of canned foods. I've got the meat as far as the beef, the chicken, the tuna. There's beans. I did my beans the same way with putting them inside of a brown paper bag and sealing them, also with the little salt packs that you put inside so they will not ruin. And then I've got all of those in containers, the hard plastic containers, but they're heavy and they're big. And I've got a loft in my house in Bat Cave, and it's full. So as far as on your list, I saw that you guys had paper plates and stuff like that. I have not gotten a lot of those yet, but that's on my heart to do. Plastic containers. The more that you can get, the throwaways, we can always put and wash some of those out in the plastics if we need to, instead of everybody taking everything back to their homes and then having to wash. That takes a lot more of the water and stuff. There is so much that I went to the Patriots, and most of my food has come from the Patriots. I've got fruit, I've got vegetables. If there's anything that anybody would like to know, I mean, I'll be happy to share with you, but at this point, it's all up in Bat Cave. Now that I'm down here in my travel trailer, I've got to get it and then bring it down here, but I have no place to put it because I'm in a travel trailer. So that would help to have somebody know where we could possibly put the stuff to share in one group.
That might be a prayer point that we can, there was probably an angel passing by, because we really need heavenly assistance to get some storage going. So anyway, that could be another prayer point for a storage.
That's a big one.
It's a big one.
And keep it in air conditioning as much as you can and dry and dark.
I want to keep this meeting down to 5:30 as we promised. What time? Does anybody have a clock? 20 till 5. Okay, good. It's still an open mic. And then we're going to do some table time. Marcia actually got a small Patriot generator, and we passed those papers out. And she said it's working, but we need to research what exactly will that help us do. You know, will it, help us cook? I know it'll probably, Marcia can come and tell us. Marcia, what does it do?
It'll power any small device.
She said it'll power any small device.
And I also have a solar oven that I'll be bringing with me.
Okay. And so she has a solar oven. Lynn, can you come up and talk about your oven?
It's still in the box.
Just tell us what it is.
It's just an oven that is by solar.
Yes.
And you put it in there, and I'll bring it and put it together next time I come, but it's still in the box. It's been there for years.
Yeah.
And it doesn't do a whole lot. Like, it's not like you're going to put it in for a community. You're going to put it in for a family and just take turns using it.
Yes.
Okay, like for bread or something.
Where do you get it?
Online, they're about $100.
She said online they're about $100. So that's one thing we want to just brainstorm is cooking ideas.
Here comes Chicago.
I feel that with my generator, I'll be able to use a hot plate. I go for simple stuff. So a hot plate, but I don't plan on doing any real fancy cooking. I don't cook, period. But if I don't cook, I eat raw food, cold raw food most of the time. But I do like maybe a hot cup of coffee once in a while, or with all this canned goods, I may have to heat up a can of soup or something. So I can just do that with my little, buy a little hot plate and use my little Patriot solar-powered thing, because it gives me 300 watts. And I'm very encouraged. I had it out on the roof of my car, and it was just chugging along like that, soaking up the hot sun on a day like today. But now the thing is, the next 3 days are going to be cloudy. So, but we get enough sunny days here. I don't think it'll be a problem. And I do like the 4 Patriots. I did see in their magazine they sell all kinds of stuff, and they do have a little, I don't know the details on it, but I did see a solar-powered cooker in the 4 Patriots magazine. So they've got tons of stuff. 4 Patriots has tons of stuff if you want to, buy stuff.
Marcia, will you give us an update next week and try it? I can buy a hot plate, and then you could try it and see if it really actually works.
Well, once I have my generator fully, empowered or whatever you want, it's fully generated, it's not going to be real fast because I don't have a balcony, that gets sunlight. So that means the only time I can charge it is when I can sit out in my car, like this afternoon, and then I have to sit there because I don't want someone to steal it. So I'll have to sit in my car, which I don't mind doing. I can do other things. I can pray, I can talk on the phone, etc. But if I can only charge it an hour, so it won't be ready, is what I'm saying, by next week. But it is, I'm excited because it is working. That's the exciting part.
Yes, Bill. Yes, Bill.
But you need it for yours. You need it for your own.
Okay, Bill has a question. What was it?
How long does it take to charge from fully empty to fully charged on a sunny day? How long is that?
Do you know?
I only know.
She doesn't know yet.
I only know what they say. They say that with full sunshine, I think it's like 8 to 10 hours, or maybe only 6 hours. It just depends. If it's continuous in the sun, it shouldn't take more than a few hours. But I don't have that option.
That's another prayer point. Maybe we can somehow hang the solar panels, like if they really worked well for cooking. We could hang them on some balconies, like on the sunny side in the courtyard. It's an idea.
I asked
David.
Oh, well, I know, but no is not a permanent no in. Things are changing. The no's are changing to yeses.
Just so you know, Marcia, I have a hot plate and I have a balcony with sun, and you're welcome to come by and share ideas or however the spirit leads. I did hesitate on sharing that I am very inspired to start an indoor garden, and my butternut squash, my little guy, is growing, and I'm getting more flowers, which means more squash is coming. And all I did was take in organic seeds, lots of them, and throw them in organic soil in a clay pot, and it's growing. And I have researched different things, and I said I hesitate in saying anything because I haven't done it yet. However, I've decided to take all the things I love, like figs and lemons and whatever other vegetables, like celery and bok choy, whatever it is, because there's a hack called Blossom on Facebook, and all you have to do is cut it at the root so that there's about 2 inches left, put it in good soil and in a good pot, and it grows. So I wanted to share that if anyone might be interested in that. To me, that seems like a really wonderful, fresh idea.
On that note, I'd like to invite Janet James to come up because she's done some of that in the past, and she's currently doing some even right now.
It's kind of a hit or miss thing. There are some videos. There's some videos on how to do it. Usually you put it in some water, and you need to change the water frequently, like at least every day or two. And you watch for it forming some roots, and then you can put it in soil, and it may or may not go. It has to take root and start regrowing before it succumbs to rot. So there's a kind of a race between that, and it's kind of hit or miss. And you obviously have to have access to the original product before you can start that doing. I actually was successful once putting celery in my garden and getting it going, and it did really well. Celery is very hard to grow, just in general. So, but that is, I did get it to do once, and I tried it several times. So, the one thing you can regrow is green onions. That works pretty easily. If you get green onions and you leave about that much of the base of it, and then put that in water, it will almost immediately start regrowing from the inside. And you can put them in soil. Then that's a fairly easy thing. Even if you have an onion that's kind of starting to go bad but it's growing, you can put that in soil, and that will do pretty well. And then you start cutting the green tops off, not just all of it, but start taking off some of the taller ones as you need it. So that's a one way to have some fresh onion, and you can do that with garlic cloves. You just take off one of the cloves and put it in soil, and it will grow. And you can eat the green tops. They're kind of spicy, but it gives you that garlic flavor. You don't just cut all of it off. What I would suggest is what I do is whatever is the tall one, they'll start to get kind of leggy and fall over or bend, and just take off a little bit of each one, because basically you want them to regrow to the point where they form a bulb. It's without, in a pot, I haven't seen them doing that well. Usually I've grown them in the ground outside. So I'm not sure how much of a bulb it will produce, but that is something you can do, that you can regrow. You can also, if we don't have access, or you don't have access to seeds, you can save tomato seeds, anything that was fully ripe, where the seeds are fully formed. You can just dry the seeds. I usually put them on a paper towel and just let them completely dry out. Then you can plant them. They may not be completely identical as what they produce as to what they were to begin with, but a lot of times you'll hear they can't. You have to have heirloom, but that's not true. You can regrow almost any seed that's fully mature. Cucumbers, for example, aren't picked when they're fully mature, because cucumber seeds, when they're completely ripe, are hard. They're not soft like in a green cucumber. So those won't regrow, but most will.
Maybe just briefly talk about some of the things you've grown in the past, even in dirt.
I've grown just about everything you can think of, but and I always use raised beds too. Those are the best way to go, where you have pathways to walk around the beds, and you're growing things without having the rows that you have to weed. So they're a really good way to grow things.
How big of an area are you talking about? Your dimensions for yourself or for
For
us?
myself, I had the beds were about 4 feet by 8 feet, and I had, I don't know, 10 or 12 of them. So I had a very big garden.
Okay, we're going to have, 3 by 6?
So I was thinking 3 by 6.
We're going to have 3 by 6. How many of them? 3 of them?
It's actually 2 3 by 8, 3 by another 3 by 8, 3 by 6, and 3 by 6 in the courtyard.
Okay.
So how many? 5?
1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Yeah.
So what's it take per person, you think? That's specifically what we have. What would you suggest? Or is that too early of a question to ask at this time?
What is the question?
What to grow?
No, the dimensions that we need.
How much you need?
Yeah, because we're going to be limited. What do we need specifically for a person to really get going?
Well,
I had just for example, one bed that I had was just sweet potatoes, and that gave us probably enough for our family for a year. And it was a lot of sweet potatoes, but they don't hold up real well. And I did give some of them away too. But
What I'm trying to say is that I was asking the question of dimensions. That's what I'm still back to the dimensions. What do we need per person, would you say, to get off the ground and start rocking and rolling once those things are up? We're gonna start thinking about that.
well, I had a big garden, and it was just for my families, and
I'm talking about here.
yeah, I know. I'm just saying I had a big garden just for our family, and that didn't include the things I was still buying.
Okay.
Which was fruit. I had some fruit that I grew, but not enough for the whole year. So
Does anybody here have expertise of knowing what the area is for a person to get rocking and rolling in this thing? Or is that something we gotta figure out?
it depends on what you're trying to accomplish. If you want a big variety, then if you're trying to just keep a lot of people alive, the one thing you can't grow in a small garden efficiently is grains, because that takes. I've read the dimensions before, but it's I don't know if it's an acre you would need just to grow grain for one family. So you can't. That's not very efficient. Potatoes, I'm not sure about that. I mean, I'm not sure how. And also there's a storage issue. We don't have cellars to keep things stored.
We're gonna have to solve that one.
Well, this first year, let's get started, see where we're at.
Yeah. Let's get that marijuana on the ground tomorrow.
Then we'll be happy no matter what.
So, really, Janet, thank you. So we need team leaders like Janet, people that have experience, and I know that there are a lot of people that have gardened before. So if you would think about if you have would like to be a team leader, we probably need to order seeds ASAP. Possibly, brainstorming what kinds of vegetables. And to answer your question, Larry, obviously the garden is not going to feed the community. It's going to be a supplement kind of thing. I think Mackie had mentioned, like when they were in Vietnam, that they were eating a lot of canned or whatever foods, and they were just happy to have some sort of greenery or vegetables, right? Oh, they didn't eat any of their vegetables. Okay. So we are a step ahead. She said they couldn't eat any of their vegetables because of dysentery and stuff.
Because of what?
Dysentery. In Vietnam. Contamination. We'll put it that way.
Another thing to do, and this is something that the Lord reminded me, is I went and bought a lot of dried milk.
Dried milk.
In the big bags. I probably got 16 or 20 of those. And I got a lot of the flowers and things. So that
Dried milk. Sounds
you
good.
can always make something. Pancakes, there you go. I got plenty of syrup.
On that wheat situation, I have a good resource for the wheat. So that's another thing we can start sharing wheat resources.
Yes.
Like, also I have Amazon Prime. If anybody doesn't and they need me to order some things, I'll be glad to order. So let's just start networking, just like whatever we have. Those kinds of things too. Links. I would definitely be interested in cooking. So if Marcia, you could take Joan Robin up on her idea and come back with a report, that would be amazing.
Just got one more thing.
We're about to have table time in a minute. Fred just wants to share one more thing.
I forgot to share this one up there for a while ago, but the Farmer's Almanac is one of the best resources there is for planting when, where, how. In any state in the union, it will tell you what to plant. And you can go on Amazon for $5.99 to the Kindle version. And then if you get the paperback, it's $8.94. It'll tell you. It's called the Farmer's Almanac. It's the best resource of what to plant and where. Anywhere in the continental United States, it will tell you where to plant it. And
Yes, they have perfect information.
yeah, they're the best thing in the world for knowing how and when and where to plant.
I was just going to tell you, when we had raised beds in Oklahoma, we had a community garden type thing, but it wasn't for everybody. But I would pull peppers, tomatoes, cucumbers, everything. We would go through it every week, and we'd take it down to the firehouse where we fixed food for people, and we'd give them a bag of food. Canned stuff and meats or whatever God supplied, that's what we gave out. But we serviced 75 people every week. You might have got 1 or 2 tomatoes in your bag and some cucumbers and lots of peppers and stuff like that. So you got a decent amount of fresh vegetables. Everybody got one. And so we serviced 75 people plus what we ate.
We had 3 beds, right?
Yeah, we had 3 raised beds, and we did a lot with that. I mean, they were jalapenos and habaneros and stuff like that because we lived in a Spanish community, and
man, they loved it. They just loved it. So I'm just saying it can go, it can, we can grow a lot with 5 beds. I'm telling you.
So also on this sheet that you have, if you would put down, if you have resources to donate toward the beds, or toward the dirt, or if you have a fundraiser idea, because we need to get that going as soon as possible. Now that we have the green light. Yeah, but it's not going to just be our group. We are pretty much the core group. We're going to get everybody on board. Once they see things are moving, they're probably going to be like, oh, now I get it. I want to be part of the solution.
Thank you.
All right. If we want to just brainstorm at our tables, or if you want to make a big circle and brainstorm, I mean, however you want to do it.
What's the most effective?
Yeah, what is the most effective?
Small group.
And then Ron will be looking forward to getting a report on, like if you want to delegate, Ron, research on dirt. I think Krista just found a local place where she can get dirt today. And all right, well, you know what? We will put an all call out for people that can help build. Yep. Yep. And Bill, you just sat in the seat with the Ron, can you give your mystery giveaway? Bill just sat in the seat. Bill just sat in the seat for the mystery giveaway. Woo! Good move, Bill. Can you pass it out, Ron?
No, Bill has to come up and get it.
Bill, you have to come up and get it. Let's see what he won.
It's a solar charger. That from your phone charger. That's real nice. Thank you so much for that. Praise the Lord.
We will have another mystery giveaway next week. So tell your friends. Also, next week we really want to break into interest groups and start moving forward. So if you have any fundraiser ideas, if you give me the ideas, I will promote it.